Welcome to Rock Your Talk. I'm Leisa Reid, your host, founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. I am very excited to introduce our next guest, Connie Benjamin. Hello, Connie. How are you?
Hey, Lisa, I am amazing. I'm so grateful to be here today.
Yes, and we're going to hear some really cool tips about how to build trust with your customers from Connie. And she is a wealth of knowledge. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her. So we're going to find out some more tips from Connie in just a moment. I also want to make sure you have access to some free gifts before we even get started. One is if you would like to learn how to get more speaking gigs, go to GetSpeakingGigsNow.com, sign up for the 5 top tips to get speaking gigs, and that will go directly to you. If you are ready to jump in and you decided, you know what, this year is my year, I want to get on those stages, then make sure and set up a speaker strategy session with me. You can find the link also on GetSpeakingGigsNow.com. If you're looking for more personal development, like, I've heard this mindfulness, awareness, consciousness thing is really cool and can actually change my life, then I'm going to invite you to go to Productive Learning's free gift. That's at productivelearning.com/gift, because there we have a class for you on new thinking for new actions. So that's a really great place to start understanding, okay, what thoughts do you have that are helping you? What thoughts do you have that aren't helping you? What actions do you need to take to start moving towards a compelling vision? And we line all that up in Productive Learning's class, New Thinking for New Action. So a couple of really great things for you to get a lift off, whether it's speaking or your mindset. And those are gifts for you today. Now, I would definitely want to move into our topic for the day. And Connie, before you share your tips, share a little bit about you. Like, what is it? What kind of magic are you putting out there in the world?
That is amazing question. I'd love to share a little bit about that magic through a story. You know me, Lisa. I love to share stories, and one of the things that happened to me in my life, actually, with everything going on in the global economy, I was interviewing so many people. So I was interviewing top world experts, and really I interviewed over 3,000 hours worth of these amazing experts. And I started to see a pattern that was happening with them. And the thing that I noticed was, in this world right now, they were having more difficulty getting their message out into the world. And honestly, Lisa, that kind of freaked me out, because I believe that we're at a tipping point in society. I saw that the work that they did could change people's lives. In fact, I remember interviewing this one amazing lady, and she talked about, she was an expert in parenting for kids that had, more behavioral issues and that sort of thing. And her work actually prevented school shootings. Like, this is the power of
Mm,
her work, and no one knew about her. And I was like, why is it that there's these amazing people that have these skill sets, that they are great at what they do, but the whole world doesn't know about them? What is happening? And so, Lisa, it got me thinking and asking the question, what's going on here? And I began to understand that because of what's happening in the world right now, I believe that the online space is so crowded. We've got more coaches now than ever before going online. We've got brick and mortars going online. Everybody's got an online program. And I think that what's going on is that people's trust is really going down, because we are being bombarded with information, and their skepticism is going up. And so what I did was I created a simple 3-step process that helps really these purpose-driven entrepreneurs that are the greats. They are changing the world. And I help them to be able to tell their underlying story in a way that has never been told before, in a way that they don't even have access to, so that they could build trust faster than anything else with their potential customers. And I did that because I believe that trust is the new currency. So I am on my magic, sister. I am on a mission to help these purpose-driven entrepreneurs to be able to share their story and message in a way that has never been done before.
Love that. Yeah. And I've had, Connie, but just for our listeners, like I've had the personal experience of working with Connie and in something that she's going to share a little bit later. So stay tuned for that. And you are not kidding in the sense that you really listen and ask questions in a certain way that uncovers things that are already within the person, but they just aren't seeing it. It's kind of like you have all this stuff in your garage, but you could have like the most valuable treasure chest behind a box inside a box that you don't even know that's there, but it's there. And you're kind of like, let's get in there and get that treasure box out. And so it's really cool. It's really cool to see you work.
Thank you so much for that. I love your story. I
Oh,
remember your story and it was so, so good. And it is like that. It's that exploration where you feel like, yeah, okay, I know the story, but we don't know the treasure story like you're talking about. It's so cool. And I love
yeah.
yours. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys will have to stay tuned for another episode when I share that.
Yeah.
All right. So then I know you have some tips on building this trust with your customers. What would be your first tip that you want to share with us?
Absolutely. So the first tip that I want to share is to light your fire within. I
Mm.
mean, if you look me up, you know that I'm all about
How
the
about the
fire.
fire? Wait, hold
All
on.
about the fire. And there's a reason for that. I believe that all of us have a fire within us,
All
that
about
it's
the
that
fire.
burning. Oh, I love it. That's that is amazing. Oh my goodness. I got to get me one of those little stick that I could hold up with fire. That's so cool. But I do believe that we all have this fire within us. It's that thing that we feel called to do that just won't go away. And when I'm working with somebody, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, all of them have that fire. So, I know you're listening today, you've got that fire, you've got that thing that you want to make the world a better place. You feel called to do something great. So the first tip I have is step into that fire within, because especially as purpose-driven entrepreneurs, sometimes that place can be scary, but we need to step towards it to really light up the world and ourselves as well.
I love that. Yeah, it's almost like having that relationship. Like we need fire to live, right? Like we need like on a primal level, like for heat and for food and things like that. But it's also it's so powerful that's like, ooh, we could get spooked or, afraid of that fire too. And so it sounds like you're like, no, go towards it in this really healthy way. And that's your power. I mean, that's your life force in a way, right? It can be one of the things that keeps us alive on a primal level, that fire. I love that metaphor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how you make that distinction that fire, the reason I use fire so much is because I believe that it can either light the people around us, build trust faster than anything else, or it can be dangerous. And the cool thing is the distinction is when fire is left unbridled, that can
Yeah.
be dangerous, right? But when fire is in a containment in terms of, I believe that's why we talk about the fire within, right? It's
Yeah.
within us, it's contained. And if you think about a physical form of that, if you have a candle in a votive candle holder, well, what happens when you light that flame? The entire room lights up, right? The
Mhm.
light gets reflected off the candle holder. It lights up that inside the candle holder, and it also illuminates the room. And I believe that that's what happens as we light that fire within, we step into our greatness and what we feel called to do, we get lit up, and it's contagious.
Love that. That's right. That's right. It is. Oh, I love that so much. All right. What's your second tip? We got to build this trust. How are we going to do it?
Absolutely. So the second tip is to make sure you understand your story. And I'm not talking about the surface story. Okay, Lisa, I'm just going to real deal
Go
here
for it.
because, okay. So oftentimes when I describe some of the work that I do, people say, okay, so you help people tell their hero journey story. And I said, no, 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 this is not, this is deeper. So to understand what I'm talking about, is I believe that there's different layers of a story. So we've got the hero journey, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, hero journey is amazing. And I know it's used in so many different contexts. And I use the hero journey as well. It's a fantastic way to tell the story. However, one of the layers beneath the hero story is having
Having kids scream in the background.
could you have the ability
Yeah,
to,
we can
I'm
talk.
so sorry. Wow. Usually
Okay. All right. We are back. We had a little mom entrepreneur break, but we're back. So, Connie, you were talking about the difference between like the hero's story and then the other story, like the story underneath the story.
Yeah. So we've got that story that's the hero journey, that's at the top. And then underneath that, we've got the story that we never tell anybody. So it's that next layer down. Now, underneath that,
One shovel deeper.
Lisa, this is the gem. This is the treasure, right? One layer beneath that is that unconscious story. It's the one that you haven't connected yet, the one that you don't know yet, the how it all pieces together and all plays together. When we understand that story, when we truly get it, what begins to happen is one, our integration of who we are becomes so powerful. We're clear about what we stand for, who we are, and that emanates. It's that fire within. It just lights you up even more. The other thing that happens is it builds trust with that person once they can understand where you're coming from and understand that story. And the reason I share this with you is because for most entrepreneurs, they're not sharing that story, that second layer deep. They're not going into that. And almost none are sharing that third layer deep. And I just want to ask you, what happens when you really understand somebody, when you feel like you know at the core who they are and what they stand for, and how they're going to fight for you, and their story that's so real. Like, how much more do you trust that person?
A lot. Yeah. You all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's a real person. I there's a quote and I can't remember who said it, but it was like, it's hard to hate someone up close. Like when we get
Yes.
really close to another person and we can see, oh, that's a person and they've had their challenges and their story and their life. And I understand that. And now I get where they're coming from. It's all of a sudden our defenses, our barriers can come down and we can come with compassion or trust, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can feel them. There's a different level of connection that happens in that. And I love that you point that out. Absolutely. You truly feel like you know them. So yeah, that's number two, is make sure you do the work to uncover your story. Now, obviously, this is part of the work that I do in the influencer interview. And I do that actually through a Discover Your Hidden Story session, which we did together, which was
Good.
amazing. And that's an option for you. You can actually get that discovery session. But if you want to start that process on your own, you can begin the process by journaling, by, if you want to do it on your own, by asking yourself some of the questions to dig deeper. Now, it's harder to do it on your own because it's sometimes that subconscious stuff, we don't even have access to it.
Hmm.
But it's possible to begin that process.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the story about the fish in the water. Like the older fish is swimming by the two younger fish, and the older fish says, "Hey kids, how's the water?" And they're like, "What water?" And we're in our own water, and we've hidden things from ourselves to protect ourselves, and pretty tricky to do that deeper work on your own. I think I definitely, you can start cracking the egg a little bit with some questions, I mean, of course, but really getting to the heart of some of those deeper issues, I think it takes another outside perspective.
It's so truly sad. I remember yesterday I was actually doing an interview with a guy that had done internet marketing for 20 years. So he had been in this game. He'd used his stories to do internet marketing. He knew all of it. And through the process, we got to the end of the process and he stopped for a minute. He said something like, if you could see visually words falling out of somebody's mouth because it's so impactful, that's what it would be like. And he kind of surprised himself for a second and he stopped and he's like, that was brilliant. I'm like, I know. He goes, at the end of the conversation, I asked him, what was that like for you? He goes, Connie, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. I have been doing internet marketing. I had no idea about what I just said. Like, it was just, I didn't have access to it. And now that I have that connection, I'm going to use that in all of my copy, in all of my funnels, in every single bit of information that I give my customers. And he goes, that bit of information on its own was worth tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to
Wow.
him, because he had been doing it for so long, he knew. And I was just like, oh my goodness, that is amazing. And that's my favorite part, is seeing people be in awe of themselves.
Well, and I also want to say that, from what I know of you and what you do, it's the process that you're talking about is super duper important. And what I love about what you do is it's not just the session or that process, it's also then, okay, now how do we implement that on a marketing perspective, and
Yes.
how do we capture that story in a way that's packageable, and can go on your website and can go in your copy and can go on videos and things like that. So I like there's like this magical, like deep, like really powerful meaning piece, plus strategic, like this is what we need to do to help you build that trust, get those customers, increase business.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, you are totally right. And so that's tip number three.
Oh.
And the reason, so tip number three, because we're just diving right into it.
Yeah.
Tip number three is share your story, share that really deep story. And that's so important, especially in the what's happening in the world right now. I actually was in a conversation with somebody. I was in a networking event, and there was this older gentleman, and he'd been doing business for so long. He was a good old boy. He'd built so many successful businesses, and he's saying, man, these young pups coming up in the world of entrepreneurship, why are they listening to these people that are have advertisements on Facebook to be like, you'll be a millionaire in 3 days? Why are they listening to them? They don't have the track record. And I paused for a minute, and I looked at him and I said, because they don't know you yet. They don't know where to find you yet. They're looking for the greats. They're looking for people that have been there, that know the path, but they can't find you if you're not in front. And
Mhm.
so that I am so passionate about this, because man, I believe that when people that have gone through blood, sweat, and tears to earn their knowledge, which as purpose-driven entrepreneurs, that's how we get our knowledge, right? It is blood, sweat, and tears, man. We are all in. We create something that we wish existed, and we create it out of thin air, and then we share it because we love people. But if we can't share the story of that, then people can't find us. And so that's number three, is make sure you share it. And so that's why I'm passionate about this, because I know there was times in my business when I people didn't know who I was. I wasn't sharing my story. And it's because I didn't have the time. I didn't know how. And so I love that we have the capacity to take all of the story uncovering that we do, and then just repurpose it to make it simple. Because entrepreneurs, we don't need one more thing to do. Am I right?
Right. We need like leverage and use
Yeah.
the gifts that we already have within us, which is what I love about what you do. And then I know you have something that I was able to take some time with you, a session that you're willing to offer the listeners. How would they go about that, and tell us a little bit about what that session is?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a discover your hidden story session. And what we do together, it's 15 minutes, and I'm all in, right, Lisa? Like all
What
in.
she finds out in 15 minutes, you yes, it's pretty fast. It's amazing. Take it. It's a magical experience you will never forget.
You are so awesome. So that was so fun to do that with you. And what we do is I'm a systems girl. So I have a series of questions that I ask you that helps you to discover that underlying story, so you can get that ball rolling. And it's totally free. To get that free gift, all you do is you can text me at 435-429 4672. Again, that's 435-429-4672. Or you can email me at connie@myfirewithin.com. And I'm happy to hop on the conversation with you and just support you with getting that story uncovered.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I think anyone, especially like if you're out there speaking or you're an entrepreneur who's trying to generate customers and clients and get people to trust you, I in order to do business with you, I think it's a no-brainer that you would want to do that. Very
Awesome.
cool. And then so I was going to ask you one question that doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about so far.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the show's called Rock Your Talk. And so I usually ask our guests, what is a favorite rock band or rock singer that you have? Who would be in one of your number one spots?
Man, I don't know if this counts, Lisa, because it's not necessarily a
I'll
rock
decide.
band,
No, just kidding.
but you decide. You decide. I rock out to it though, so maybe
That
that
counts.
counts.
I think that counts.
Okay, awesome. So it is a band called Great Big Sea. It's a Canadian band, and it's this Celtic, really upbeat music that I totally
Cool.
love.
Great big scene, like a S.
Great Big Sea, like the ocean.
Oh, sea. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great Big Sea. Well, shout out to Great Big Sea for making Connie's life even better than it could be without you. I love that
Absolutely.
question because I never know necessarily, like in networking, we may not really talk about music, but for me, I love all kinds of music, and I'm usually singing or dancing to something that's going on, whether it's Megan Thee Stallion or Elvis Presley and anywhere in between there. So very, very wide range of tastes that I have. But um, so I love that. I like learning about new kinds of music. Very cool. So for our listeners today, you got to check out the Great Sea, a Celtic band from Canada, and also subscribe to our show so that you continue to get notifications of other amazing experts like Connie. Make sure and take advantage of her offer to do that strategy session or the discovery session, excuse me, with her, and really start to uncover that hidden story that you have. Meanwhile, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and we will see you on the next episode.